This week on The Real Housewives of Potomac.
Just felt like if something needed to come back to me, it would. And unfortunately, something did come back to me. I wanted to show this to you. And I know y'all won't be able to air it, but at least I can just let you watch here.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Today we're going to be recapping the new episode of The Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 10, Reunion, Part 2. Let's get right into this. Wow, this second part felt like two parts at once because there was so many things discussed. Let's get right into all of it because there's so much to talk about. So we left off with Ashley and Wendy going back and forth. Ashley said that Wendy weaponized her accomplishments against others, and then Wendy said, well, you don't have any accomplishments. And Ashley says, well, I have one social security number. That's where we left off. We pick back up with Wendy saying, I do too. I do too. I only have one social security number. Obviously, she's not going to say that anything else. I mean, I wasn't expecting her to incriminate herself by denying it. And then Ashley says, well, you're 6'7", says otherwise. And she does like this hand thing, which Ashley, you are way too old to be acting that way, okay? It's not even funny. Andy says to Wendy, so I'm assuming that you don't accept Ashley's apology. And Wendy says, no, because Ashley's full of ish. She sat at BravoCon and lied. She said that she talked to me, but she didn't. And what I do know is that you, Ashley, texted Stacey when Stacey asked you if you felt bad that Wendy was locked up. And you said that you weren't feeling sad or bad about that. And y'all, they showed the text messages. Stacey must have screenshotted that and sent it in the night before because they put them up on the screen. Stacey did text Ashley and said, do you feel bad? And Ashley said that she felt sorry for the children, but not really for Wendy. So Wendy's like, well, you don't need to, you don't even know my kids, so you don't even need to feel or give them anything. Ashley then says that the reason she thinks people are calling her mean is because the dynamics have changed in the group. And I guess Wendy agreed with her because she says, yeah, we had thicker skin back then. I don't know what that means, but Wendy and Ashley said that, but Ashley says that she accepts that maybe she can adapt more to the ladies who need more sensibility or women that have stricter boundaries. And Gizelle says, yeah, I mean, back in the day, chin check and catfish or eviction, that would have rolled off. And Angel says, well, Gizelle, I get to be me. I get to feel how I feel. You don't have to use all these examples just about me because I know that you like to pinpoint at me. But listen, is it true? Were they much more shadier back then? Yes, I mean, they were talking about Michael grabbing people's butts and Ray and Karen's having the blue eyes. And there was a lot of things that were said back that were very strong, very, very deep. But you know what? All of that led us to season 8. The most toxic season of all time, where Candiace and Gizelle couldn't even look at each other. Gizelle wouldn't even acknowledge Wendy's existence. Candiace and Robyn, Karen, Mia. I mean, it was bad. And, as a viewer, a lot of us, we like the drama. We like the fights, but we really don't like gang ups and when things get too dark and just kicking someone when they're down. Ashley and Gizelle, they've definitely gone meaner. They have. As the seasons go on, they have. It's not about getting, we had tougher skin back then. It's about, you're mean. Okay, so then they play some scenes from Ashley this season, her personal scenes. Andy asks if it's true that she got $20 million from Michael Darby as a settlement, but she says that she would never reveal that if she did. She does say that they are co-parenting very well. Andy asks about Josh, and Ashley says that her and Josh are still hanging out. And Stacey says, wait, you're dating Josh? You humiliated this man on camera, and then when the cameras went up, you had already broken up with him and then told them that you wanted his natural reaction for the camera and did it the next day. So I am assuming that Ashley had a conversation about this with the ladies because some of them say they also heard this. They heard Ashley admit that at some point. So that horrible scene that we saw where she really did humiliate him and just treat him like crap, she orchestrated it. That makes it even worse. Andy then brings up Ashley and Jackson's, the whole thing, the Charrisse's son, her kissing him, that whole scandal. So Ashley, she says that, she had an issue with Charrisse going on a press tour about it because she really wasn't mad when she revealed it to Charrisse on camera. The other ladies are asked what they think, and they think that it's terrible that Ashley did that. Ashley says that it was only a kiss, but Wendy says, you alluded that there was much more that happened on Watch What Happens Live. And Ashley says, well, yeah, I alluded, but there was not more that happened. It was just a kiss. Angel asks Ashley, did you give Charrisse a heads up? Why bring it on the show and make it a storyline for you? And Ashley says, well, honestly, Charrisse has always joked around with me, saying that she wants me to marry her son, and she calls me her daughter-in-law, and all of these things. And Andy then adds, well, yeah, and you know what? I mean, he is 27. And Stacey had to check Andy. She says, but still, Andy, it's breaking mom code. It's breaking girl code. Listen, I find the whole thing disgusting. Moms, hide your sons. Okay, so then Andy moves on to ask about her sister's dad, who's had his issues. We've heard about that. She gives an update on that, and she says that her mom's health could be better. Andy also asks Ashley if she got mad that Gizelle sort of, blocked Ashley from hooking up with Mauricio. And Ashley says, well, let me give props to Stacey because she knows I'm single, and she was trying to make something happen. And then Giselle's like, well, I think it was Stacey who wanted him. I think it was Stacey that wanted Mauricio. They just want to blame Stacey for everything. And then Andy says, Ashley, word on the street is that you were dating a politician. And Stacey says, that's impossible. And then Ashley said, she says, why is it impossible? Stacey says, not with your history. Let me tell you, I was loving Stacey this reunion. Her just sitting next to Ashley, reading her down. And then Ashley's like, what history? I am an upstanding woman. And Stacey says, a woman who slept with her friend's son. Yeah, really upstanding. And then Ashley's like, yes, upstanding. Upstanding with a capital U. Stacey, you did good. You did good. Andy then asks Gizelle if she knew the politician that Ashley dated. And Gizelle says, oh, well, honestly, I thought the question was for me initially because I also was seeing a congressman. Whoa. And she said this was recently. So this tells me that Gizelle and Ashley are hiding their real lives from the show, and that makes sense why they want to deflect by digging into all the other ladies. Ashley then shares an illustration of a nice little children's book that she's writing. So I guess that's positive. So that's a good way to end her segment. All right, so moving on to Keiarna, Kay. So it was painful already to have to watch her scenes on the show during the season, but we have to see her season package again. So we see her relationship with Greg, and then her feuds with Wendy, Stacey, and Jazzy. So after seeing that, Kay pulls something from the back of her pillow. Everybody was like wanting to know what this was. It was the picture frame that Greg gave her. So she says that it was actually very symbolic because he wants to look at the bigger picture. She really isn't embarrassed, and it's kind of sad. So there's a question as to why Kay wants a condo but not a ring. That sounds like being a sugar baby. So she says that couldn't be further from the truth. She's hardworking. She has her businesses, which, by the way, Angel tried to defend Kay, and Kay was like, I can speak for myself. I thought that was kind of rude. So then Andy asks about the fight that Wendy and Kay had. So Wendy says, let me say this. Kay, your intent this season towards me was to be malicious. You talked about this event where I was the speaker and you were mad because I didn't wave at you while I was speaking. But what you never told anyone was that when I got off the stage after speaking, I went up to you and gave you a hug. And Kay says, no, that's not what happened. So then Wendy pulls out her phone and says that somebody who was at the event took a picture of Wendy and Kay at the event hugging. And this person said, I was there. I saw that it was all love between between the two of you. Then Kay brings out a tiny printed picture of the room where Wendy spoke. I don't know what she was trying to prove. How is that a receipt? I don't know. But what Wendy had, now that was definitely a receipt because we saw the picture. They were hugging. So for Kay to have left that out from the original story, it says a lot. Then Andy asks Kay what is her issue with Stacey. And Kay says, well, my issue with Stacey is that she wants to put out this idea that I'm aggressive when she's had issues with everybody, but she keeps saying that I'm aggressive. And that narrative is it's very black Karen of her. So Stacey says, I understand the connotations because I have a responsibility as a black woman to not perpetuate that stereotype, but she as a black woman has a responsibility to act accordingly and to behave herself. Kay says, that is not true. You ordered cheese when you know I'm allergic, and you gave me a plant with no Listen, Kay, she can't even fight. She sounds silly. So then they bring out Jazzy. I was excited to see her come out. Towards the end, I wasn't, which we'll get into that. The dress, what was going on? I did not like it. A lot of people didn't like it. What did y'all think about it? I thought it looked like a mess, and it didn't really match the other ladies because they were. Yeah, I had red, but it wasn't fully red like all the other ladies had their dresses. Anyway, so she comes out and Andy congratulates her. He asks about Darius, who is playing for the Patriots. Shout out to the Seahawks, by the way, Super Bowl champions. So she says that the one game that she didn't go to was the game that Cardi B was at, because Cardi I think she was dating a Patriots player. I don't think they're dating anymore. So the shade starts right away. Andy asks Jazzy where do her and Kay stand with each other, and Jazzy says, well, things stand with us. We'll see each other and not really say anything because that's what happened yesterday when we were on the train. And Kay says, I didn't recognize you. So the other ladies are like, what does that mean? So Kay's like, well, we were on the train and I looked up and I was like, oh, that's Jazzy, but I didn't recognize her, so we didn't speak. So Andy says, well, it sounds like you did recognize her if you said that's Jazzy. And Kay's like, well, let's just say she looks beautiful right now. Andy questions Jazzy, what did Kay say to her about Wendy that was so bad that she couldn't repeat? So Jazzy says, well, there was a lot said when Kay spoke to me, and I didn't share everything out of respect of where I thought we were in our friendship at the time. And then Kay's like, girl, you have 15 minutes. Please don't waste it on me. Wrap it up. And then Jazzy says, Kay, we don't have to do all this. We can actually talk about Greg and how you stole him from his wife and you were raising his children. Whoa. Everybody was shocked. Everybody was gagged. It was like, what is going on? So then they had like a rapid back and forth, forth and back, back and forth, forth and back. It was like, you were a flight attendant before. You have no ring. Your dress looks cheap. This is custom. That's not custom. Have your 10 minutes. I mean, it was quite a lot. And the other ladies were very entertained. They literally just sat back and observed Jazzy and Kay going at it. So then the next season package that they took a look at is Tia. I honestly think that Tia had a very solid first season. So Andy asks Tia if she had a culture shock coming into the group. Tia says that she thought she would because she had watched Beverly Hills and people didn't like Lisa Vanderpump's British humor, so she thought that maybe she would clash here because of that, but she says everything's been good. Andy does ask, why don't we see her husband that much? And, like, is everything okay? And she says that everything is fine. He didn't like the nanny comment. I believe she called him a nanny during the season. I mean, obviously he wouldn't be okay with that. And I don't think any man would, but other than that, she says that everything is fine. She says that they tease each other in a loving way. I don't know about all that. Why are we teasing each other? I don't like that. But she says that's her thing. And it works for them, I guess. So then Andy asks her about reconnecting with her half-sister. We saw this on the season. So she goes into a little bit more detail of the story of how, her dad had these children with another woman. And Tia didn't want to connect with them up until he passed away. And now they have a good relationship. And as she's talking about this, Gizelle almost sheds a tear as Tia was talking about her dad and her family. I think it struck a chord with Gizelle. And then Andy asks Gizelle about the will situation, and she says that she lost the legal battle. It lasted about 2 years. Gizelle says that a lot of people think that she wanted her dad's money, but she explains that her father was a prominent civil rights leader and he had possessions of things that are part of his legacy and of his relationships with other civil rights leaders. And she knows that he wanted his grandchildren to have those, and for then the generations that were to come to have them as well. But something that is positive is that Houston will be building a park in honor of her father, Mr. Curtis Graves. So that's great. She says that his legacy continues regardless of the evilness of his wife. Ooh, damn. Well, alright, so moving on to Tia and Jazzy. Such a dumb fight they had. Remember when Jazzy was so offended because when they were at Nevis, Tia made a joke that the owner of the restaurant thought Jazzy was cute and he was hitting on her or whatever. So Jazzy was mad at that, and she's still mad right now, as Andy's asking her about it. Jazzy says that it was inappropriate and Tia didn't know me that well. And Tia says, well, let me say this. That night when I made the comment, she was very upset. And when I saw she was upset, I told her, I'm sorry, I don't know you that well, so I do apologize. Then the next day we're having dinner, she's holding a fork and truly embarrassing herself. And then Jazzy's like, no, sweetie, I was embarrassing you. And Tia says, let me finish. Your reaction was disproportionate and honestly unhinged. You've been picking on me since you met me. You have a chip on your shoulder. Jazzy says, I have a husband who works and makes millions of dollars, unlike your husband. And then they just continue to go back and forth. And Tia really ate her down by saying, you're a friend of the show, but you're actually no one's friend. You failed at your job. Ooh. I will say this about Jazzy. This is my thing with Jazzy that I've noticed since last season. Jazzy can have really good moments, but then the more she continues, she makes like a fool out of herself to the point where she's doing way too much. And she did it again at this reunion. You know, she kind of had it going when she was going at it with Kay, but now as you're going at it with Tia, you sound really foolish. And, you definitely blew that comment out of proportion. Nobody thought that you were going to hook up with Mr. Sunshine, or that Mr. Sunshine was going to, cause any issues with your engagement at the time. And by the way, for her to compare her husband's income to another woman's husband's income, be humble, because you could lose it all from one day to another. Like, life is so unpredictable. Do not use money to belittle people. Go at them about something else. But the money that's not even yours, So then they get into the Jazzy and Stacey drama. Andy asks Stacey, did you only go to Jazzy's wedding because Wendy told you that it would be bad optics if you didn't? So Stacey says, well, actually, our friendship was fractured when she was recording phone calls. I hope you all watch what you say when you're talking to her. And then Andy asks if anyone else in the group has had knowledge of this or experienced this. And this surprised me, you guys. Kay, Wendy, Angel, and obviously Stacey, the four of them raised their hand that Jazzy has recorded their phone calls too. Whoa, I wanted to hear more about this. That's a pretty big revelation, but then they jump into Mon'nique. I'm telling y'all, it was so much happening that they would touch on it, but then they would move on. They would touch on it, they would move on. And I get it, there's so much that happened this season, but honestly, maybe we should have gotten 4 parts. Maybe this is the one season that could have afforded a 4-part reunion, because they were glossing over some pretty important things way too fast. But anyway, Mon'nique comes out wearing her costume. Listen, somebody commented that she looks like some sort of superhero villain with this. She says that it's a reference to the pyramids because she found herself in Egypt. I thought it looked bad standing up, and it looks bad sitting down. Andy says to Mon'nique, you've grown so much. What would you say to season 5, Mon'nique? And then Mon'nique says, oh, but I would tell her to put her weapon down and not to take everything so seriously. It really wasn't that serious. And I thought to myself, Mon'nique, they were talking about the paternity of your child. That's not serious to you? Okay. Andy says, when you say put your weapon down, what do you mean by that? And then she's like, I'm talking about this. So she pulls out the original binder, which that's an iconic binder. The ladies take a look at it. It still has all the original tabs with all the women's names and everything. What I would do to go through that binder. They need to put it at some museum. Mon'nique says, I've been so busy in court dealing with custody and all that court stuff. I actually received a cease and desist last night at 9 p.m. Jazzy says, well, the reason you guys are there is because of Stacey, right? And then Mon'nique says, yeah, some of it. So then they take a look at the season, Mon'nique's return, which if you would have told me a year ago how I thought Mon'nique's return to the show would be, I would have never thought that her return would have been such a flop like it was. So they take a look back at her return, the Chris and Stacey storyline, and then Mon'nique comparing Angel to her situation. So after they take a look at all of that, Andy reads a question asking Mon'nique how did she work on herself, because she definitely seems much more lighter this season. And Mon'nique says, well, the first thing you got to do is lose 350 pounds, and I really reflected a lot on myself. Andy asks Gizelle and Mon'nique how did the lunch that they had go for them, and Gizelle said that she loved it. She says, cause me and Mon'nique, we could have actually been great. No. You don't have a home? I have 4 homes. No, y'all could not have gone along from the very beginning. Y'all did not like each other. Anyway, she says that going forward, they are going to communicate and just move forward. Andy brings up that he tried to get Mon'nique on Ultimate Girls Trip Season 2, which actually happens to be my favorite season of the Ultimate Girls Trip. It was at Bluestone Manor, Dorinda's house, with Phaedra, Vicky, Brandy. I love that season. It would have been interesting for Mon'nique to have been there, but Mon'nique at the time was very firm that she did not want to come back, and she says that it's because she was still married and she was still angry at lots of people, the network, the production, but she says that she has healed, and she thought to herself, well, the best way to test how much I've healed is to go into a place that might trigger me, so let me do this, and that's why she decided to come back. Andy then asks, what did your divorce tell you about yourself? And Mon'nique says, well, it showed me that I didn't love myself. I was depleted. Andy then says, Mon'nique, you said that you saw a lot of similarities between your dissolved marriage and Angel's marriage. Do you still stand by that? And Mon'nique says, well, I wasn't coming at your marriage, Angel. And Angel says, you know what? Things don't really bother Bobby that much, but he thought you and him had a good rapport, so it did bother him that you, of all people, would shine that type of light on him. Mon'nique says, well, it wasn't about him personally. It was about NFL players and relationships. And I know that Bobby's mad at me because I said hi to him the other day and he didn't say hi to me back. It was rude, actually. Mon'nique, I don't know about all this if you're healed or whatnot, because why would he want to talk to you after what you said? I can't. Anyway, Mon'nique keeps doubling down on why she said that comparison with Angel, and she keeps saying that she saw Angel overworking and taking care of all the things, and Angel's literally sitting there saying, like, I'm telling you, that sounds like some projection. Mon'nique doesn't know me very well. Bobby is super supportive, and then Tia even says, yeah, when we were at the house, Bobby did everything for us. And Angel says, people are now trying to run with this narrative that there are issues when there really aren't. I really can't believe Mon'nique didn't just apologize and said, you know what, you're right. Maybe I was thinking about my situation. If you say you're good, you're good. But no, she sat there and just kept on doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. So then we get into Stacey. Did she know Chris? Did she date him? There are photos of them. So Stacey says, I was never on a date. I never went on a date with him. Andy says, well, it sounded like you admitted to dating him at some point during the season. And Stacey says, I admitted that I sought him out, but not that I dated him. And then Mon'nique says, well, they were definitely communicating. And if they had dated, that was never really my issue anyway. But because I think Stacey's funny, she's beautiful, but my issue is like the boundary when it came to me sharing. I haven't shared and opened up in a very long time, and something did come back to me. And I want you all to take a look at this. So she pulls out her phone and then she plays a video, but we don't know what happened because that's where the episode ended. Oh my goodness, I'm tired of talking. It was just so much that happened. So yeah, this reunion was bam, bam, bam. Pretty good second part, and I cannot wait for next week, you guys. We're going to get much more into Wendy's case, and the Grand Dame is gonna come back. So she's gonna come out, and I think that's gonna be a really great conclusion to the reunion. I can't wait. I hope they start filming next season right away. And I'm gonna say right now, you know what? No, let me hold it in. I was gonna say who should come back, but let me just wait until the third part, and then we'll talk about who should come back, who shouldn't. But great reunion. What did y'all make of this? Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on next show. Y'all have a great one. Bye.